Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next BoPS Show and Tell. Firstly, I'd like to say hello to any of the councils we've met at the recent BoPS and RIPA showcases. Thank you for attending those. It's great to see you again, and we hope to see you, some of you soon. My name is Tom Buttrick. I'm from Southwark Council, and we're all here today to show you what we've been up to over the last sprint. Also want to say a big thanks to all the partner teams at Buckinghamshire, Lambeth and Southwark Councils, our colleagues at Deluxe, formerly known as MHCLG, our colleagues at our developer Unboxed, and also RIPA's developer Open Systems Lab. So thank you all for your hard work over the past couple of weeks. Please subscribe to this BoPS channel if you haven't already, and we'll keep you up to date on what we are working on. As ever, this show and tell is being live recorded, and it will shortly be available on this channel alongside all of our other previous show and tells. Let's get started. Next slide, please. So for those who somehow don't know, BoPS is a back office planning system. It's a software application that is being designed by local planning authorities with our developers, and it's also used by local planning authorities. And the primary purpose of BoPS is to process planning applications. So our users are planning officers and planning managers who determine planning applications. Currently, the tool is actually processing live lawful development certificate applications within our partner councils. And we're doing that alongside our sister digital tool, the RIPA tool, which is reducing invalid planning applications. Now, RIPA is the tool where you submit your planning application, and BoPS is the tool that we as a local planning authority process your planning application. So there's an end-to-end service there. We're iterating the tool each sprint, and we'll be showing you some of the new functionality today. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions about what we show you or about the tool, there's a link in the description of this video. It's the rebranding link. BoPS questions, you'll see it down there in the description. Pop your question in there and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So let's get started. What have we been up to over the past 2 weeks? Let's see. So the theme of the past 2 weeks has been evidencing the assessment now against the GPDO. Now, what does that mean? That means when a case officer has a lawful development certificate in front of them, they're going to be assessing what's proposed or existing against the regulations in the GPDO. And we've been looking at how the case officer assesses the application against that, and we've got some functionality to show you. And again, we've been looking at validation. As the case officer has received the application, what are they doing? What are the steps they're taking to ensure the application is valid? And then we can proceed with the application. So in terms of activities, we've added GPDO references, general permitted development order references, into the tool, and we're going to demo those to you shortly. We've started testing this with officers, and we've got some good feedback, and Tom from Unbox will be showing you some of that. We've ensured that RIPA and BoPS can receive the same file types. We've been, again, as I said, looking at validation and actually doing further user testing with planning officers on that process. We've been doing some research on immunity. We have also we've ensured that our documentation of how we capture our research activities is up to date and working really well, so we can capture and push that through to the next phase of the development process to develop new functionality. Last sprint, we were looking at consistency of maps across RIPA and BoPS, and now we've finished that circle now and ensuring that there's consistency of maps within BoPS itself between public-facing and officer-facing functionality. A bit of email notification updates around who we send notifications to. We've upgraded improved the decision notices. Scale bars are on the maps now, and we've been doing a number of showcase events to potential future partner councils. So let's get on to the next slide. So as ever, as I touched on earlier, the minimal viable product, the MVP of BoPS, is live and processing planning applications that have been submitted by real people to do real development. We are processing applications across 3 councils. We've received 14 applications in total. And this is part of our private beta, so kind of invite only really to applicants and agents. And this process has allowed us to continue to respond to questions about the MVP. We've found bugs, we've ironed those out, and that feedback allows us to iterate the tool further to make BoPS better. And being in the wild definitely focuses our minds, and it's a great process to be part of. We are, as I say, the MVP is in private beta, and we are considering now moving to public beta at some stage in the near future, to be determined. But what we want to do is increase the numbers so we can learn faster and iterate the tool quicker. So watch your space on that. Next slide, please. And actually, I think I'm handing over to Tom here. Tom, over to you.
Thanks, Tom. So from the design perspective, so firstly, for those of you who may be attending this for the first time, my name's Tom Gaylor, and I'm a designer with the development partner Unboxed. And what I've been working on this past 2 weeks as part of this sprint, one of those things has been looking at the validation process. So we spent quite a lot of time working on how we can support validation to take place within BoPS. And we built various different features that we have been iterating and improving. However, in this last sprint, the decision was taken by the team to think about, to maybe take a step back and have an overview, an overall look at what we've built and how it supports validators to do their job. So there's a bit of time to go back to sort of look again at this. And so we had input from 3 experts in validation from across the partners who talked through their process and ways that they think that the validation process could be improved in light of BoPS. And this led to this working vision for how validators can best support the processing of applications. And so you can see that sort of by adding value, by clearly articulating how something is invalid and how it can become invalid. And also, we were trying to answer this question, which is, should validators be traveling around the software to find things and check them, or should things be brought to the validator so that they can sort of see them in one flow, and that maybe we reduce the amount of clicking around they have to do? Next slide, please. And so sort of from those interviews where we've gathered some further insights and from the testing that's been ongoing, we're currently in the process of prototyping an iteration of the validation process, which kind of looks at a step-by-step process. And really this aims to reduce the amount of document and program manipulation by validators. So the sort of the administration of opening windows and moving documents around and saving them under different file names just before they can actually do the job of checking, is it correct, and is it the right documents for the thing. So the principle is to bring all that information to the validators and really remove the work of organizing pieces of information and reducing the load on the memory so that they can focus on the really important stuff, which is checking if it's valid and explaining maybe how it can be made valid if not. Next slide, please. Alongside this, there's also been some ongoing research into the assessment of immunity applications. So you'll hear a little bit later about the work we've been doing on PD permitted development applications, and the interviews we've got around immunity have been with enforcement officers. So we've done one and we've got more planned, and these are aiming to think about ways that evidence can be sort of assessed and organised to help support the assessment process, and also the explanation of that assessment process to the public. So whether that's the applicant themselves or anyone who might be interested in reviewing an application. And with that, I will hand over to Freya.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. So just a quick update on how our approach to user testing admin has changed during this sprint. So we have now compiled all of the separate testing related Google Docs that we were using into one single doc. So this can be accessed by all the partners from both the RIPA and BoPS projects. And as part of that work, we then ran a short session to explain the different parts of the doc to the partners. so that they could understand the full testing process. So that's from agreeing the journey or the function that we want to test, writing and creating the scenario and running that through Ripper so that it would be available on BoPS, and then preparing for the testing session by prepping the feedback sheet so that it would be tailored to that specific journey or question that we wanted to answer. The new doc will also improve understanding of when the testing sessions are going to take place and how to join the session so that all the partners can choose to observe or can even run the session themselves if they want to. And as a result of these changes, we've had feedback that it's now much easier for partners to locate all the BoPS testing related information in one place, as that was a source of confusion in the past. So it's been really great to iron out that issue going forward so that everyone is on the same page regarding BoPS testing. And I'm going to pass it back to Tom B now. So next slide, please.
Thank you, Freya. So one of the key pieces of functionality we've been looking at this sprint is one of the probably the most important things a planner will do when determining a planning application, particularly a lawful development certificate application. Now, as all the planners will know, when an application, a lawful development certificate application comes in, they'll be assessing it against the clauses in the GPDO, depending on what class of development it is. And we recognised there was a user story here for the case officer, that they wanted to be able to record which part of the GPDO the application related to, and the specific clauses that were either complied with or not. So we've developed a piece of functionality here that enables the case officer to do this. It's kind of early stages, but Steph will give a demo of it shortly. And we started testing this, and Tom is just going to run through now with the testing that we've done on this important piece of functionality. Tom.
Thanks. Next slide, please. So, yes, one of the keys to the approach we've taken with this is to be agile and to sort of only invest as much time and energy in building it as we need to, so that we can answer our questions. So we have this hypothesis, we have this idea that we're trying to test out, which is that, you know, by providing the policy references in a way that can be marked as complies or does not comply, this helps the officer through their assessment process. So we've built something, a minimum viable product that allows us to do this, and we've tested with 2 officers so far, and we've got 4 more planned, and we'd welcome anyone else who's sort of interested to have a look at and to test, to get in touch, because we are really keen to test this and any other parts of the program with as many people as possible. And what we'll do is we'll hopefully find out whether the question we've asked was the right question and what the response was, and that will help us inform, do we continue down this pathway, how we could improve it if we do continue, or what might be a better alternative. And with that, I will hand over on the next slide to Tom.
I think it's to me again. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we look forward to kind of seeing where that piece of functionality goes, because obviously it's such an integral part of the assessment process by the case officer. And obviously, as an assessment is being done and a recommendation is made and a manager makes a decision, or a decision maker makes it, we have to issue decision notices. And this sprint, we updated and agreed the content for our lawful development certificate decision notices. And that's both for refusals and approvals for proposed and existing development. Now, this was a good process, a good collaborative process, as we brought the 3 partner councils, Lambeth, Buckinghamshire and Suffolk, together to agree the wording and content. And as you can probably imagine, we all had our own existing wording and content. So to come together to agree a consistent and general approach was a good testament to the kind of collaborative working that we have within the project. So thank you to partners for that. Next slide, please. One of the other elements of collaboration that we do within the project is actually ensuring that our dev teams, and our dev teams are 2 teams, one from Unboxed, who work on BoPS, and Open Systems Lab, who work on the Ripper project. And it's ensuring that those dev teams work together. and collaborate where appropriate, but to also understand the how both tools / products work, and the data that is transferred between them. Now, an example of the collaborative working that we've been doing is mapping, and we've touched on mapping in the last sprint, but I'll mention it here again, is that both dev teams work together contributing code to create the mapping functionality. It's open source code, so other projects can use it. And by contributing the code together, working together, it enables that better understanding and of both products to improve, which enables the improvement of the product. The devs meet weekly, where we have a meeting to discuss these kind of matters, and it's proven successful to kind of basically combine our powers and resources there to improve the functionality. Next slide, please. And as I said, mapping, we touched on last week around having the same mapping. And when I say mapping, I mean the base map, the Ordnance Survey base map in the RIPA tool, which is when the applicant submits the planning application, and also in the BoPS tool, where the case officer is looking at the submitted, for example, red line plan on the same base map. What we did this sprint was actually ensure that when we're engaging with the applicant, for example, maybe in terms of validation, and there was an error on the red line plan, and we send them an updated red line plan. The applicant now also sees the same base map, the Ordnance Survey base map, and so that consistency across all products is now there, and it gives very much the case officer the comfort that everything is the same, and the red line doesn't move between different types of base map. It's just one base map, which is really helpful. Next slide, please. One of the other pieces of mapping functionality that we've included now is adding scale bars to maps. Now, this is a dynamic scale bar at present, so as the case officer or the applicant zooms in and out, they will see the scale bar moving. We're going to be looking at a future iteration of this to consider regularly used scales like 1 to 1250 or similar. So watch this space on that. But now we have a scale on the map. We know what size everything is, which is great. Next slide, please. One of the other pieces of functionality that we've introduced this sprint is just ensuring that depending on the application information that we receive, either the agent and applicant or just applicant, we now make sure that we contact the correct person in terms of notifications, and that the application has been received, there's a validation issue, or it's valid. We now ensure that we're a bit smarter, and we contact the right person, and that's now implemented. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand over to Steph now, who's actually going to demo some of the functionality that we've just discussed. Steph, I'll hand over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Steph. I'm the lead developer on BoPS. I joined the project about a month ago, and I'm very, very happy to present to you some of the work I've done, some of the work we've done. The first one would be the map. So, there's no map on this one, but if I go in here, you can see, so this is the new map we've put in. You can see the scale bar here, which some rightfully put is quite useful to sort of like get a sense of how things scale up. So that's one of the things we've done. It's also on BoPS applicant, but I won't bother showing to you here. I'm now gonna move to the policy assessment, the GDPO, I believe. So if I go to this application here, so this is an application that's been validated. You can see it's been completed here, and then we have this new section here that is assess against policy. So if I go here, you can see I can choose one of the parts of the GPDO. So as some of you probably will know, there are multiple parts in it, but because we're just testing this functionality at the moment and sort of trying to gather feedback to make sure we're doing the right thing, there's only part 1 in there. But As you can see, there's already all the classes from that part. There's linked legislation if you want to double check, but there's all the classes from the actual regulation here. So I'm going to add class A and class G just for the sake of example. And if I add those classes, you can see that they are being added here. And so if I go to a particular class, there's actually all of the sort of bits, I know they're not called bits, but the subsections of that class. And so we're trying to help officers sort of keep track of whether it complies or it does not comply, or if it's still yet to be determined. So class A is a bit long, so I'm going to move to class G to show you how the status works. So if all of them, if all articles comply, then the class complies as a whole. If there's one of them that does not comply, then that will take over. And you can see here the class G is now does not comply. And if there's any undetermined, we don't make any assumption. As long as you have one of them that's undetermined, then it will remain in assessment. And you can see this is non-blocking. It's not necessary that they comply for you to move on to the next stage. But as I said, this is an early sort of feature, and we're just trying to gather feedback at the moment. So that's it for the GDPR policies, and I'll move back and hand back to Tom.
Thank you, Steph. It's so great to see kind of emerging functionality and features being kind of tested, and then we can, if it feels good with the users, we can then take it further to see where that goes. And obviously, that assessment and kind of recording it is an integral part of the application process for the case officer. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show and tell, we, in terms of the BoPS team and in conjunction with the River team and Deluxe, or MHCLG, as they were previously known, undertook 3 recent showcases to showcase both BoPS and Ripper, the end-to-end application process. And we did the show, demoed the showcase. We demoed the both tools, and there is a YouTube link there. You can see the end, so you can see the end-to-end process. This was to 17 new councils and the councils who aren't yet within the project. And as one of the reasons, that the showcase was taking place was to garner interest and about councils potentially coming on board to join the project. Now, Deluxe or MHCLG are organising this, and they will be seeking out expressions of interest over the next couple of months for potential partners to join the project. And we're super excited about this, to obviously get more councils using the tools and have their input into the development of the project. So it was a real success. Lots of feedback, lots of interest from the councils who attended. If you didn't attend, do get in touch, and we can update you as well if you are a council who didn't attend. But watch this space. There'll be more communications from Deluxe in the very near future about this. So next slide, please. So we're now planning our next sprint. We are going to continue to look at validation improvements and again around assessing applications. We're going to be testing some of the stuff we've built this sprint around the assessment process. We're going to do some research, further research on immunity. We're going to be looking at how BoPS looks at calendar days to work out specific and important dates within the system, to ensure that we are consistent with bank holidays, etc. And we will just do a continuous improvement to the tool. So yeah, we'll be reporting back on that in a couple of weeks. Next slide, please. So if you want to get involved, if you've any of the features we've shown you today, you want to test, do get in touch. We're very happy to get more planners and more councils involved. So our contact details are there, and do drop us a line. Next slide, please. So this comes to the end of what we wanted to show you today. So thank you for your time. I'm going to jump over to Freya to see if there are any questions that were submitted, and we can hopefully answer them. Freya.
Great, thanks, Tom. We haven't had any more questions or any questions come through yet.
Okay, well, that's okay. If you do have any questions, you can always contact us via our communication channels, Twitter, email, etc., and we'll definitely come back to you. I'd like to thank you all again for your time. I'd like to say thank you to all the partners and to Unboxed and to Deluxe. So thank you all, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time, and I believe that's the 14th of October. So thank you and goodbye.